Yo, what's up, y'all? We back out here again. It's the Buff Missionary in the house. Real quick hit. I wasn't actually going to come back into the office tonight and record a video because I got one in earlier this afternoon. But the situation that I experienced today made me rethink that. And I decided that I wanted to talk about it tonight while it's still somewhat fresh on my mind. Like, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think down in the comments below as we go through this video. But we're talking about alignment, right? And my flow, what am I trying to do? What do I want the legacy that I leave to be? What kind of impact am I trying to make with the time that I have on this planet? So really cool opportunity that I had this morning to catch up with a friend of mine. And the cool thing about this friend is that she was a missionary in Palau in 2010, my first year as a missionary in Palau. So we were there. And I think the last time that I had seen her after that year was maybe 2012, 2013. So it's legit been more than 10 years at least since the last time that I saw her. Shout out to Carrie McPhee. And it was really cool to be able to catch up. She was in here for like a hot second and ended up leaving shortly after we met up this morning. But just in catching up and talking about the plans, one, it was really cool to reflect a little bit on Palau and see where we're doing, how we're doing these days. And it's funny because this recurring theme, as I'm starting to realize and perhaps even appreciate, ended up becoming a part of the conversation. I asked what she was up to. She asked what I was up to and kind of what my plan was, because anytime that you hear that I'm not trying to be a pastor, everybody wants to know why did I go through the seminary. So I explained my whole thing about wanting to pursue chaplaincy and eventually realizing that that wasn't the route that I was going to take because I was going to end up doing missions. And after talking a little bit more about kind of my thought process on that, she threw out the question, you ever thought about social work? Now, if I told you that this was the first time that someone has asked me this question, immediately after me telling them about my plans and the things I want to do, I'd be lying. It's not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the third time. It's probably the fourth or fifth time that someone has asked me this about it. And what makes it interesting is that, you know, we think we know ourselves so well, right? And we might know ourselves to a degree better than most other people, but sometimes the belief that we know ourselves kind of gets in the way of what other people might be able to see from a purely objective standpoint from a distance about us. In other words, sometimes our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves can be subjective based on things that we prefer and that we would want. And so we tend to skew our perspective towards certain things and think those are the things that we would want. Those are the things that we would want to do in life. When the other person, not being us and not having those preferences or presuppositions, they just look at the situation and say, well, here's what I know about you. And based on what I see, this is what I think would be a good fit. And so multiple times over the last couple of years, when people hear that I'm getting done with the MDiv and that I'm looking at going into this doctorate and talking about counseling, they're bringing up this other side of the coin, which is social work. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know anything about social work. I know that I was telling Carrie about this morning. Like, I know that you find social workers in schools, you find them in hospitals, but I don't know what they do. I don't know what the job description is. And so because of that, it seemed a lot easier, at least for me, to focus and say, well, let me go with counseling and psychology because that's more of a direct path. You know, I want to know more about mental health and how to help people in that regard because of my mom and the things that she's going through. So there's a lot of good inspiration there, but it is very individualized and centralized. And when I look at the impact that I would want to make with mission and kind of being a bridge for many people, not just individuals, so to speak, well, a path, a partnering degree or a partnering mentality that is more broad is actually probably more in line with that. And I never looked at it that way before. Counseling, it is very much so generally a one-on-one kind of a thing. That's where you build the relationships. A lot of it has to stay confidential. And even though I know there's a lot of referring, it's a little bit different than being able to go in and change a community. And the impression I get from what social work does is that being able to change a community and plug more people into things going on around is a bigger aspect of social work than it would be for something like psychology or counseling. And so it makes more sense. It makes more sense for me in that regard. So it's wild. One of my good friends, Isai, shout out. I was actually hanging out with him the other week, just talking and catching up. He's in that program, so I asked him a couple questions. One of my other friends, shout out to Jordan. She's one of the first people that asked me about social work when we worked together in the dorm a couple of years back, and she brought that up, and she made some observations about how I was in interacting with the guys in the dorm, and felt like that would be a fit. And I do feel like, going back to my first point about the way that we view ourselves sometimes being subjective, I never would have looked at the things that I was doing in a social work context because I thought it was more individualized. But the reality was, because of the position as a dean, by nature it had a bigger influence, and it was meant to impact more people. And then when I would talk to people within that structure or system, I was helping them to plug into the bigger picture. And as a community, I think that it's a little bit bigger than what I thought it could have been. And again, I'm still trying to figure out in my mind, because like I said, I really don't know anything about social work. So I'm trying to figure that out. And tomorrow I actually have a meeting. I'm going to go and visit with one of the doctors that Carrie referred me to. I sent her him an email. I'm not sure. First name is Dustin. I don't know if that's a guy or a girl's name. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. But I'm going to go and I'm going to check this thing out. And what makes it interesting now, our dear AU. So, as you know from other videos, previous videos, I had originally signed up to be in the clinical mental health program. I was accepted last fall, started the program, but because I got overloaded with classes, I wanted to take it slower, and I ended up getting encouraged, I'll use that word, to sign up for the full load, which I didn't have the time for, didn't have the bandwidth for, and I dropped out of the program. It was my intention to reapply into the program for the winter semester. And so I did that leading into Christmas break and out. I think I finished all my paperwork and everything was submitted, completed, references, all done by January 9th. Well, it's a month later and I have heard nothing back from them. And it's like, you know, a grad admissions program, you got one job, is to admit graduates into your program. So I don't know what's been going on for this past month, but what I can say is, if I had been reaccepted into the program, which again to me seems like something very simple to do because I was already in the program and had everything approved already. So you're looking at the same stuff that I submitted before is the same stuff you're looking at again. Why would the decision be any different, you know? But if I was already reaccepted into the program, this conversation I had today wouldn't have stood out to me as much because I would have felt like I'm already going in the direction I'm supposed to, would have already started taking these classes, et cetera, et cetera. So my mind is now open to this because of the lack of response that I've gotten from this other program that I thought is the direction I wanted to go in. And then I find out that when it comes to crossover, because there is some similarity based on the discussions I've had just today, there's a lot more overlap in terms of how counseling and psychology is a part of social work than in the opposite direction. Because counseling and psychology is more narrow in its application than social work is. So there's lanes within social work that deal with counseling and psychology, whereas within counseling and psychology, there isn't the lane of social work. It doesn't get broader in that respect. So I have a lot to think about. And I'll have a lot more to think about after I go and meet up with this professor tomorrow. But I'm excited because The thing that I'm trying to find in my life, I was having a conversation with a good buddy of mine, shout out to Dormus, man, is alignment. I'm bringing this video full circle right here. Alignment, at least in the way that we discuss it, is what are the things that we're good at? What are the things that we're passionate about? And what are the things that we can do in life that line up with that? Where it feels like I'm working in harmony with myself instead of doing something that's opposed to or against the grain of who I am as a person. There are a lot of us doing jobs and working careers that don't align with us. We do it because it makes the money. We do it because of the connections we can gain. We do it because of the other benefits that may come along with it, but they don't align with us. And I believe that alignment is more valuable than money. I believe that alignment, because it's a part of who we are. So if I can find the thing that aligns with me, then I have found staying power. And once you found staying power, you can be in something for as long as it takes. You can stay there. You have the power and the ability to stay there. And it doesn't even feel like work anymore because it's already aligned with you and what you're doing. That's the goal. To me, that is the goal. And like I said, we'll see if this meeting tomorrow gets me close to that goal. But yeah, I'm excited for that. Just a quick hitter. Stay tuned. I'll keep you updated because that very well may be the third degree. So until then, I'll catch up. Peace.